we're going to talk about something you've definitely experienced, but probably never really thought about. It's the split shipment. And believe it or not, there's a surprising science to it all. I mean, you know the deal, right? You order something, say, a new desk. The tabletop shows up on Tuesday, but the legs, they don't get there till Thursday. And your first thought is probably, great, they messed up my order. But here's the thing. Chances are, it's not a mistake at all. Nope. In fact, it's actually a sign of a really sophisticated, complex system working perfectly. So let's pull back the curtain and see how this actually works. So in the world of logistics, they actually have a name for this, the split shipment problem. And trust me, it's a huge challenge for any big company. I mean, think about it. How do you take one single order, fulfill it with maybe 2, 3, or even more shipments from different warehouses, and still make sure every single bill is 100% accurate? Getting this wrong can literally cost millions, but getting it right? Well, that's the secret sauce for happy customers and, a profitable business.
So it all boils down to this one big question. How do these massive companies create a system that's smart enough to ship you what they have in stock right now, say 60 items, but also precise enough to only charge you for those 60 and not the full 100 you actually ordered?
Okay, so the solution, it doesn't actually start with a single line of code. Not at all. It starts with asking the right questions. Before anyone even thinks about building the system, an expert has to sit down with the business and basically create a blueprint for how this whole thing is supposed to work. And what's so interesting here is that these questions, they're not about tech at all. They're all about business strategy. Things like, hey, should every single customer be allowed to get partial shipments, or do we save that for our big clients? Or is there a limit? Like, can we send 10 different boxes for one order before we're just losing money? And a big one, if we ship 9 out of 10 things, do we just call that order done? The answers to these questions, that's what becomes the digital foundation for the whole shebang. And once those business rules are decided, they don't just get buried in an email somewhere. No way. They get hard-coded directly into the system's master data. You can almost picture it like a waterfall of logic. The system starts at the top and checks a series of rules, one after another, in a really specific order to figure out what to do next.
And this order, this hierarchy, is absolutely critical. The system always starts broad. It asks, okay, what's the general rule for this customer? Then it gets a little more specific. All right, but is there a special rule for this particular product? And finally, it looks for the ultimate trump card. Is there a super unique rule just for this customer buying this product? And the key thing to remember is the most specific rule always wins.
So with all that logic mapped out, now we get to go inside what I like to call the system's engine room. This is where the magic really happens. It's all about flipping a few key digital switches that control, well, everything about how an order gets fulfilled. And man, this slide shows you the single most important switch of them all, the completion rule. It's a game changer. Look at the left. Get this setting wrong, and the system ships 60 out of 100 items and just calls it a day. It marks the order complete. Those other 40 items, poof, they're gone, lost in digital limbo forever. But look at the right. With the correct setting, the system ships the 60, but it knows it still owes you 40 more. That one little setting, it's literally the difference between a happy customer and an absolute customer service nightmare. Okay, besides that big one, there are 3 other settings that are super important for making sure the money side is right. First up, billing relevance. All this means is the system won't even think about sending you a bill until the truck has physically left the warehouse. Simple. Next is billing quantity. This one makes sure you're only billed for what was actually on that truck. That PGI thing you see, that's just some fancy insider lingo for post-goods issue, which basically means the truck is left. And finally, price source. This one's great because it locks in the price from when you first ordered, so you don't get a nasty surprise if the price goes up on your back-ordered stuff. All right, so that's all the theory. Kind of technical, right? But let's make it real. Let's run a simulation and see how all these rules and switches actually play out in the real world. So here's the scenario. Imagine you place an order for 100 widgets. The company's system looks at the warehouse and sees, uh-oh, we only have 60 of those in stock right now. So what happens? Instantly, the system springs into action. It creates a delivery for the 60 widgets it has on hand. And the very second that truck leaves the warehouse, an invoice is automatically created for exactly 60 widgets. Not 61, not 59. Perfect. But here's the cool part. The system has a perfect memory. It doesn't forget about you. It keeps that order open, waiting for the remaining 40. Then, maybe a week later, when the new stock arrives, boom, the system automatically triggers a second delivery and a second invoice for those last 40 items. And just like that, the loop is closed.
And this timeline just lays it all out so clearly. Look at this. The order is placed on day 1, but the system doesn't consider it completed until all the way on day 11. Why? Because it waits until every single item has been shipped and billed for correctly. We're talking 2 totally separate shipping events, all tied back to one original order. Now that's precision.
Of course, we all know the real world is never that clean, right? It's messy. Stuff happens. So a really great system has to be able to handle all the little hiccups and weird situations. And that's where the real expert touch comes into play.
One of my favorite features is something called under-delivery tolerance. I just call it the close enough rule. It's so smart. Imagine a customer orders 100 items, but for whatever reason, only 98 get shipped. Without this rule, the system would keep that order open forever, just waiting for those last 2 items. But with this rule, you can tell the system, hey, if it's 98 out of 100, that's close enough, just close the order. It's pure, practical common sense built right into the software.
And what's really amazing is that this whole logic can work in reverse too. Think about things that aren't easy to count, like liquids or grains. If someone orders 100 gallons of something, but the truck actually delivers 102, well, the system can be set up to automatically adjust the bill to the exact amount that was shipped. It's incredibly flexible.
So when you boil it all down, it comes to this one idea. There's a quote from the source material that just hits the nail on the head. The difference between a junior person and an expert is how they manage status. A real pro is obsessed with checking what's called the document flow, which is basically the digital paper trail of an order, to make sure every single step is accounted for and correct.
And that brings us full circle, right back to where we started. So the next time an order shows up at your door in 2 different boxes on 2 different days, you're not going to think it's a mistake. Instead, you'll know exactly what you're seeing, a perfectly tuned, global commerce engine humming along quietly in the background, doing its job to get you what you ordered as fast as it possibly can.